So last week, Superman and Lois Season 1 came to a close. I'm a little bit late to the party, but let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your thoughts on Season 1 of Superman and Lois as a whole. What were the highs, what were the lows, and where would you kind of put it in relation to other Arrowverse shows, or maybe even other superhero shows in general? I would love to hear your thoughts on it. If you don't know, I've done a bunch of reviews for the episodes of Superman and Lois. You can check them out right up here in this playlist. And for those of you that have been tracking along, I'm sorry I wasn't able to do all the episodes. The summer just got too busy. My personal life got a little bit crazy. My wife was out of town, and it just made it impossible for me to follow the show week to week and put out reviews related to it. So I was planning on it, it just didn't work out, and that's even why this video is so late. But with that said, let's get started with the good. And let's just get right to it. This is easily one of the best seasons of the Arrowverse, and potentially the best season of the Arrowverse. But my other personal favorite seasons I haven't watched in a few years, so it's difficult to make that one-to-one comparison. I think they very wisely decided to tell their own little pocket story about Superman and his family, and didn't try and tie it in any large-scale meaningful ways to the rest of the Arrowverse. They allowed this story to stand on its own, and without the constraints of a shared universe, I think it served the show and the family inside of the show really well. Likewise, this is one of the most mature shows in the Arrowverse, which is a little bit interesting because the show focuses in on two teenage boys, and so they have all sorts of teenage angst and teenage politics, but the show handles it in a way that for the most part has a certain degree of maturity to it, where drama feels earned, reactions to things are based in reality, and not kind of the usual Arrowverse melodrama where every hero has a secret they're keeping from everyone around them. Everyone feels betrayed constantly. There's all these lectures about trust, and it seems like everyone has the emotional maturity of a 13-year-old, and they don't know that trust is earned, and like it just so frustrating what they've done with a bunch of these Arrowverse shows with unearned drama and over-the-top reactions to everything. Here, you have a family that's going through a very difficult transition, and each of them are responding differently to it. You have a caring father, a caring mother, two brothers that actually like each other and have each other's back, and they're trying to make the best of this tough situation. And in the particular case of Jordan, he's kind of the one that has a lot more struggles with all of this because of his own anxiety and disorders that he has. And so he's kind of in the center of a lot of the conflict because he's gaining powers, and that's a difficult combination to have. But he's in the environment of family that actually cares about him and want the best for him and are pointing him in the right direction. And when people have conflict, they talk to each other at the end of the episode and resolve it, like actual humans do that really care about one another. So there's just a lot of details like that that I appreciated. The show is heavily influenced both by superhero genre as well as shows like Friday Night Lights, and you can see that pretty easily in the show with even the sports aspects of it, and Clark Kent becoming the coach and in parts of the season. And that's probably very much the right way to balance out the story, to have characters, a family you care about, while also having a guy that can fly and shoot lasers from his eyes. And I think that's the big thing here, is because they feel more like actual humans, they actually learn and grow incrementally as we do. As we have different experiences, have different conversations, we slowly move along this path. And you see that with these characters, where if you followed my reviews, I found Jordan pretty insufferable the first half of the season. And then he slowly grew and changed, adapted, and evened out a little bit. And people have setbacks, and the parents are trying to figure out how to best respond to the situation. What freedom should they give them? Where do they need to pull them back a little bit? What can they allow Jordan to do? Can he go to school? Can he not go to school? Those are the real conversations people would have. So they're taking this ridiculous scenario of teenage boy with laser eyes and treating it like an actual parenting moment where they have conversations. And when dad has to lecture kids, it feels like a wise person trying to impart his life experience to younger people that are trying to make their way in this world where neither side really knows the best answers because it's such an unusual situation. All of that feels real. Feels like earned drama conflict. Then at the core of the season, we had the Morgan Edge plotline where you have this very rich person moving into a small town, offering jobs to try and mine things, but we know there's a mystery to it. And it was the right details to give Lois Lane something to do, this investigation of like, what's this guy really up to? While having certain homages and ties back to Smallville, because the plot of Smallville for like the first 4 seasons was this kryptonite in Smallville and it gives people powers. And you get to this show and that's this kind of the idea of what's going on without copying it, without doing the freak of the week stuff that Smallville did. It copies it in just the right way. That's a nice nod for old school Smallville fans, but a new twist and spin on it. And when you're trying to tell this story about the most famous reporter in the world moving to a small town, you want to make sure you're doing something with her. So you don't take this incredibly intelligent, competent woman and turn her into just the nagging wife and the mom that's trying to get her kids to behave. So they put that investigation there. So she's using her skill set, but she's also close to home. It doesn't in any way make her a bad mom. She's both this passionate, relentless reporter, but also the caring mom that's there for her kids. And I love that it was able to balance that and represent both sides of what she could be. But even with Superman, but with both of them really, Superman and with her, constantly having this tension of if you have people that are creating a great service to the world, to do that, it comes at the cost at home. And that's a real tension that people deal with of like, how much do you give there when you need to be here at home, and balances it. Because you believe that these two parents love their kids and they're trying to do the best and have responsibilities. They know they can help people outside, but their ultimate responsibilities to the kids. And like, just balanced all of this really nicely and put the pieces of the story together in a way that was interesting, had a mystery, while feeling personal to this family, and they picked the right details. And I'm curious if they're going to be able to carry that on for the rest of the season, or seasons, when they move on. Are they going to have the right plot that feels, or is it going to start feeling more contrived? Because I don't know how long you can maintain some of these dynamics with how they've had them up to this point in time. Other nice twists and turns in this plot line. They introduce a villain at the beginning that you think is the season's villain. He's clearly out to get Superman. And in case you haven't seen the season, I'm probably going to get more spoilery for the rest of this, but it was revealed to be Steel from a different Earth, John Henry Irons. And it turns out to be like the coolest character of the season. Just like a real nice detail to throw in there. A great plot twist of this guy that, why is this guy trying to kill Superman? Oh, what we're going to see at the latter half of this season already happened on his Earth, and he's here to try and stop that and get a little bit of revenge. And they're bringing in another comic book character in a way that makes sense and feels earned without just copying the comic storylines. It's like a new version of it, but it fits the story that they're telling you. So I just thought it was really nicely done. A great payoff for that mid-season point when it's revealed who he is. And then it turns him into this awesome ally for the second half of the season that adds interesting little dynamics into it of there is this other Earth out there where these two people where him and Lois were married and had a kid. And so that puts the whole family in this weird thing of like they're seeing their mom and it is their mom, but it's not their mom with a different child. And it's such an interesting place to put people in. And so I just thought it was like the great detail of a character and a great arc to throw in there, in an awesome way to bring in Steel in a way that makes the character very cool, especially compared to our last live action version, which was Shaquille O'Neal, which was definitely not cool. And so then we start getting into the payoff of what the whole season was about, with Morgan Edge's plan with trying to repopulate Earth with Kryptonians and putting their consciousness into them, and the kryptonite rocks, these specific yellow ones, are the reason that Smallvillians, their exposure to them, are more able to hold on to it. I was a kid saying I was like totally blown away with like the final reveal of what was going on. I wasn't like, oh, that's my favorite thing about the season. It was like, okay, that's good enough. That kind of works. I think maybe the plot line of Morgan Edge actually being Kal-El's half-brother, I don't feel like they did enough with that. Maybe it's going to be like a recurring deal later on, but considering how family-centric the show is, I don't think that one necessarily paid off as much as maybe it could have. It was just kind of like a details, like trying to have one more plot twist in there, but you could remove that plot twist and he's just they're the last two Kryptonians, and they have the same relationship. There's not like a dramatically different... Then I think maybe that's the point to it, of like, you remove that plot point, and suddenly all they are is just the last Kryptonian, one of them with a bad dad, last Kryptonian, one of them with a good dad, and therefore they have different views for how they should use their powers on Earth. They don't need to be related to each other. And so it just feels like one of those tropes, the sibling, the father, the brother, the sister, the mother trope of like, twist, we're actually related. And I don't think it added anything in particular. It didn't really detract, it didn't hurt it, but it was like this big point that thus far I don't think has amounted to a whole lot. And, but in general, I think they did enough they came up with, it's tough to come up with a plot line to have a big slam bang finale for Superman. Because he's so powerful, there's only so many threats that are actually threatening to him. And so, and especially if you bring Steel into the mix, having this scenario with Kryptonians, I think was a nice way to do it. And certainly at a CW budget, they couldn't have as many big slam bang finales as I'd like. A couple of these showdowns they had were a bit shorter than they probably should have been, and its budget is why. But there was also some pretty cool stuff they were able to do with the showdowns. Another negative on here, I feel like they had a better 12-episode season than 16-episode season, or was it 15, whatever the final number was. It felt like they do the reveal around episode 10, 11, 12, what Morgan Edge is up to. He's pulling all the small villains, and then Morgan Edge is defeated, and then it feels like we kind of go into delay mode so we can go back and have another deal where Morgan Edge draws up a bunch of people and Superman has to fight them off. And so and then there's some plot lines in there about the consequences for Lana's family in Smallville. And that feels like a great plot line for season 2. And because they did kind of this big showdown 2/3 of the way through the season, halfway through the season, and then we have a few episodes of like, all right, let's rebuild a little bit, shuffle some things around, and then ta-da, let's do a big finale. I think by doing all that stuff, I think to some extent it watered it down a little bit. I think that there was a bit of a lull in there, and it felt a little bit repetition of, we got him, but we didn't get him. He's recruiting people. Let's go get... A little bit repetitious in there and how it kind of played out. Not a big criticism, because for the most part I like the individual episodes, but I think had they done 12, 13 episode season, and just instead of kind of having Morgan Edge get away and come back and kidnap and get away and kidnap, take a couple of those cycles out of there, take a couple episodes out, hold some of this plot line for the next season, because it's good stuff. I just don't know that it needed to be in this season, because it felt a little bit like we're following it up while it's still happening. So, but kind of a minor thing. Probably my favorite episode of the season probably was the flashback episode, at least the first 2/3 of the flashback episode. I've said it many times before, I love origin stories. And so then when they kind of do this flashback and tell Superman's origin in this universe, I love that stuff. And there's just a lot of these nice little references to classic Superman imagery. And then because the show is about Superman and Lois, it's also a love story. And very focusing in on the love story. It's like, all right, start fighting crime, love story. And you buy into their relationship even more. We've seen the matured version of it with kids. When do they meet? When did they fall in love? I thought that was just some nice little touches. And when did he reveal certain things? And to the extent that it was also like, some of those moments I wish they'd paused on them. And because you wanted to see the reaction to certain things and how did she respond when she learned certain information. And because it needed to get to the last third of it was like, surprise, we're using technology to do all this and pry through brains and stuff. I would have rather just seen 10 more minutes of the flashbacks and flesh them out even a little bit more because I was eating that stuff up. Final negative in here, I guess, if you see my reviews, you know this, but I think they overcooked Jordan in the first half of the season. Of when you have this guy that they build it in that he has anxiety and certain ways that he responds to people are exaggerated. I don't know the diagnosis, so I don't want to say the wrong phrase. But so then it turns into this situation where for the first half of the season, every episode, you have this person whose dad is Clark Kent. And he's mad at, he's ignoring his dad. He's ignoring his brother. His brother's being so patient with him. His dad is trying to do everything to help him out. And he just keeps yelling at his dad. And I had some people in the comments say, no, I was just like that when I was his age. I could so relate to that. It's like, okay, that's awesome that you can relate to that. There's a handful of people that really enjoy the character because the journey that he was on. What I saw was an awesome dad being yelled at by a kid that wasn't listening to him. The kid was being mean. The kid was being rude. The kid was not appreciating the fact that he's surrounded by a loving family. That's what I saw. And I think that's what a lot of people like. Having Superman as your dad, that would be awesome because it's not just because he's Superman, because he's Clark Kent, a really genuinely nice person that cares and is doing his best to be present while having a lot of responsibility, and his son's being rude to him. That's what I see. And I understand there's more complex than that, but they played the same beat every episode. Jordan gets mad about something he shouldn't be mad about. Jordan does something he should do. Jordan ignores something. And then he's not fully responsive to the people that have been speaking wisdom to him. In fact, he's rude to those people half the season. But like I said, at the end of the day, they're basically nitpicks. I thoroughly enjoyed the season. Enjoyed the vibe of it, the plot of it, the twists and turns. Besides maybe the half-brother twist, they worked for me. I can't wait to see the next season. Hopefully they have another plot line that's as strong as this one that keeps the elements together and balances it really nicely. And they can learn from the little things here and there that I think there's room for improvement. But all in all, potentially the best season of the Arrowverse thus far. And pretty safe to say the most consistent because it's also shorter and it's more serialized in certain ways and less villain of the week than Flash and Arrow. And therefore, I think just makes a more consistent viewing experience. So, most consistent season of the Arrowverse, probably best season of the Arrowverse. You let me know what you thought down below in the comment section, and keep talking movies and TV too much.